the men's correction facility. The only problem is she is, oops, okay.
Hi everyone, welcome to our channel. I'm Morgan.
And I'm Tammy.
Today we're going to be doing our January reading wrap up. Make sure you like and subscribe and let us know what you read in January in the comments.
So I read The Women by Kristin Hannah. This follows the combat nurses in Vietnam and how they were treated when they came back to the United States. It was a really powerful book. I didn't, I knew enough about Vietnam, but not really. And I knew that the soldiers were not treated well. When they came back, they didn't get the warm welcome that the World War II veterans got. But then it was a whole different story with it being the women over there and how people just didn't think the thing that was said throughout the book was that there were no women in Vietnam. Because if you weren't a soldier, then it didn't count. But these women were on the front lines of what was going on and like seeing these injuries. And it was just really heartbreaking and powerful and a typical type of Kristin Hannah book if you've ever read anything like that. And I gave it 5 stars.
Ooh. Okay, so this was not the best reading month for me, to be honest. I only read like 3 books, and only one of them ended up being really great for me. But the first book that I read was A Faint in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen. Yeah, by Danielle L. Jensen. And this is a romantasy based on Norse mythology. And it follows Freya, who is a shield maiden with the powers of like the gods. She's got like some kind of gift. And there is a legend that's foretold that whoever is able to control Freya basically gets to become king. And so a bunch of different men, of course, start fighting over her to get control over her and, you know, become king, become powerful, and all of that. And of course, because it's a romantasy, there is a hunky guy who has to protect her. And for this one, I listened to it on audiobook. I was preparing to like travel, and so I was trying to get a bunch of stuff done. And I don't know if maybe I just like wasn't paying enough attention to it or if I just wasn't in the mood for it or what, but it was only like a 3-star for me. I don't know if I'm going to continue on in the duology when the new one comes out, but I do think, you know, a lot of other people will probably really like it.
Okay, so How to Solve Your Own Murder by Kristen Perrin. So Frances has been trying to solve her own murder her whole life. And this is because she was told a fortune when she was 17 years old that she was going to be murdered. And 60 years later, she is in fact murdered. So her great niece is the one left to solve who did it. I gave that a 4.5 stars.
Okay, so then I read Divine Rivals, which I know everybody loves. And this is a YA romantasy about 2 young rival journalists who find love during a time when there is war among the gods. And this is another book that I listened via audiobook, and I don't know, I think it's another situation where I'm just kind of like not sure if it was me, if I just wasn't paying enough attention. Sometimes I do think if I read a book physically, I enjoy it more, just because I have to pay attention to that and I'm not doing the dishes or something like that. But this is a 3-star for me, and I know it's one of Tammy loves this book, and I was like dreading telling her. So again, like so many people love this book, so I think it's probably just a me thing.
That happens. We were talking about it before. It just happens sometimes with some books. You're like, I know I would have liked that, but like, especially if you're listening to it, you just don't like pay attention or give it all, especially if you are doing something else, which I typically am.
Yeah.
When I'm listening to an audiobook. The Inmate by Frida McFadden. So Brooke moves back to her small town and begins work as a nurse at a men's correctional facility. The only problem is she is responsible for putting one of the men in there for life. So this is a typical Frida McFadden if you've read any of her books. Super fast paced and has you thinking you know what's going to happen, even up into the epilogue that you're like, oh my gosh. And she has those twists in there.
Oh, I love a red herring.
I gave it a 4 out of 5.
Okay, the last book that I read was Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough. And this is a show on Netflix. This is about a woman named Louise, who is a single mom. She's kind of in a rut, and she decides to go out and have a night with one of her girlfriends. And her girlfriend did not show up. So she ends up meeting this man, and he's beautiful. And they have a little moment, they have a kiss, and she goes to work on Monday. She finds out that this man, David, is her boss. And not only is he her boss, he's married. Then she meets a woman named Adele, and she becomes friends with her. This woman kind of seems a little off. She seems like she really needs a friend, and she seems like her marriage is really weird. Like maybe she's afraid of her husband. Louise is very skeptical. When Louise finds out that Adele is David's wife, Louise kind of becomes obsessed with their marriage and trying to figure out what's going on. And it is crazy. Like the plot twist is just never would have saw it coming. It was amazing. So fun. I will say this book is not for people, if you're like one of those people who needs like this super realistic plot twist and all of that. This is if you've read so many thrillers that you just like need something crazy because everything else has been done before, you're gonna love this. So yeah, and the show on Netflix is pretty good too.
And what'd you give it?
I give it a 5.
Ooh, okay. So the last book I read is The Year of Less by Kate Flanders. This was a memoir. Kate spends 12 months only buying the necessities, and then she begins to challenge herself on consuming less, even outside of spending. This year, I'm definitely focusing on spending less, and because I will be having a baby, and so that's going to be a big expense for our family. So I just wanted a book to kick off, and I read this right at the beginning of January. It's super short. I think it's only like maybe I listened to it 4 or 5 hours. And I just wanted a book that was going to inspire me and hear from someone else's point of view about how she was able to, go beyond the 12 months with spending less. And she did this with a lot of things, drinking alcohol, consuming media, that kind of stuff. So it was a very good read. And I gave it a 4 out of 5. Let us know below what your January wrap-up is.